Hi, join me for my week in the garden where you get to see how I maintain my garden in August. I'm Kate and welcome to Blooms in the Yard. I bloom in Shawnee, Kansas in zone 6B. We have clay, alkaline soil. It's been really hot here in August. That's pretty typical for us. If you live in a colder zone, August might be like a prime time for you, but it's generally a really difficult time for us. So we're just trying to keep everything alive right now. That is the goal. I thought about naming this video The Big Cutback because that's basically what I'm doing, is trying to tame everything right now and just keep it under control, keep it alive. There's a lot of watering. I'm not going to bore you with that, but that's a big part of gardening in Kansas in August. I also have chosen a climber for my tutor trellis over there, and I'm going to plant it in this video and you'll get to see what I chose. And yes, I am wearing a sweatshirt in August, so it has cooled off the last really day, or really, well, it was 85 yesterday, so we consider that to be a cool off here. But this morning it's 59 degrees, which is like glory, glory, hallelujah for me. So I came out in a t-shirt and I was a little bit cold and I went in and put the sweatshirt on. So this is a sign of wonderful things to come. It was definitely time to reclaim my porch and sidewalk area. So as we've gotten a lot more rain this year than usual, these tree limbs have slowly just kind of lowered and drooped down further and further, and it was just time to get them under control. You'll see that as I cut things back, you start to see the neighbor's truck a little bit more, and so that's kind of why I like to keep them low growing, but it was just getting to the point where I was having to duck to get underneath them. Here you can see that we've only got about a 6-inch clearance between the ground cover on the right and our Annabelle hydrangeas on the left, so it was time to take back our sidewalk. Here's what these Annabelle hydrangeas look like after being cut back, and as you can see, they don't look like they're lacking in blooms for all of that trimming. So here's this morning's harvest off of my one cucumber plant. I've learned that I only need one because I get plenty of cucumbers. I let one or two of these get a little bit too big. If you're wondering why your cucumbers sometimes get bitter, it's just the heat, and I don't think that there's really much you can do about it. You know, I try to keep it well watered, but eventually I just kind of give up when they start getting too bitter. So my green beans are doing what I wanted them to do. They're growing up the trellis and they're not on the boxwoods. So that is a success. You can see they're all starting to get to different poles here. And hopefully they'll grow fast enough that we can get some green beans before the frost. Just a quick half an hour in my potager garden. I tied up my raspberries. The raspberries were really starting to get into the path and it was getting harder to open that door. So this trellis was here, but I tied up a couple of pieces, and so that's why they don't look good right now, but they should be able to work themselves out. Harvested a bunch of cherry tomatoes this morning. Picked them all. I picked all of the sun gold tomatoes and all of the peppers. There's a ton more of these Mountain Magic tomatoes. And then I picked my cucumbers. So I have one Mountain Magic tomato plant, 2 sun golds, and 1 cucumber. And then I have a bunch of peppers. Over here, I'm just taming this raspberry. It was sort of flopping over into the grass, so I keep this little trellis here and I just weave the pieces back in there. So now, from this angle, it doesn't look bad. And I mean, so now we're kind of seeing the underside of the leaves a little bit in some places, but that I think will start to work itself out. I love eating the raspberries, but they can be a little messy looking in the garden, so I do try to keep them looking as good as I can. So I just spent a little bit of time in the potager garden and right outside the potager garden, just kind of tidying up, deadheading, and harvesting this morning. Okay, look how many dahlias, how many blooms I have going on this one plant. Pretty sure this is all one. And it is just covered in blooms. I don't usually have that many on one plant. Usually I'm lucky to get like 1 or 2 big ones at a time. So I'm pretty excited about this plant right now. I'm gonna look in there and make sure it's all one plant. This one actually came back from last year. Yeah, it's all one. Just makes me realize people that have a climate where you can leave them in the ground and they can multiply. Wow, they must be doing really well. I don't trust that this will come back next year, but gosh, I'll have to decide if I want to dig it up or not, I guess. Last year I just had so many that I just couldn't dig them all. Look how happy my morning glory is. This makes me really happy. Here are the seeds. Easy, very easy to collect, very easy to grow. And they do reseed, so and these were here last year, and here are some seeds. They might even be from this year, I'm not sure, but you know, I mow them down and it's not a big deal. So this was coming up in the middle of my yard. It is, I mean, I'm about 99% sure, my cottonwood trying to come back to life. We cut down a massive, over 150-year-old cottonwood. And now I have stuff like this coming up in random places. And I'm pretty sure it is my cottonwood trying to come back. So I'm wondering how long that is going to go on for. If you watched my musical chairs video and you're curious how this guy's doing, that succulent transplanted with no problem at all. This one's, I think this is probably just damage from like getting knocked around more than watering or being transplanted, but the celosia is making a little comeback, so doesn't look too shabby, I think. Wasps started coming out of the first boxwood, and so I switched to the second one and waited for the wasp to calm down before I finished up the first one. So here's what I did. A lot of them were flopping onto the grass, and I completely trimmed those all the way back. But if they were not flopping onto the grass, I left them and just deadheaded the worst of them. Today, I'm going to talk about why I'm taking this Roguchi Clematis out. I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it to the spot in front where I just built a tutor. Now, I will say that I've never had luck moving a Clematis, so it's died every time. So this is pretty risky. So my two reasons that I'm going to go ahead and try to move this today are that it's hardy. This Roguchi Clematis is very vigorous and hardy, so I'm hopeful that it will make it. The second is that I'm just not happy with this area. It's just too crowded. It just looks like a big mess. So this plant is not meeting its full potential in this spot. I think that it will survive. I'm hopeful that it will survive, and I don't like it here. I'm not happy with it here. I need a plant up in front anyway, so if this doesn't work, I'll just go buy one, but it's worth trying. Okay, that didn't go well. I finally got it, but I don't know. I might have done a lot of damage. Here it is. Taking it to the front. Well, the Joe Pye weed I had planted back there is alive. I had no idea. I kept trying to kind of see back there, and I couldn't. Plenty of creeping Charlie to be cleaned out. And here's the hole where I took that Roguchi Clematis out. Honestly, I was thinking I would plant some things in here, but I think that the oak leaf hydrangea will just fill it in. Let's take a little trip down memory lane. So here's the space in 2020 before I planted. And then in spring of 2021, it seemed like the Roguchi and the oak leaf might be able to get along. This is later in 2021 in the summer. And then in 2022, they had just started to touch, but they were still getting along okay. By 2023, things were already getting a little bit dicey, so you can see that this oak leaf grows quickly. Last year, it became clear that these two were just not going to work together, and so this year, I'm finally dealing with it. You can see the oak leaf hydrangea. But in the back, that is the sweet autumn clematis, and it is growing from my neighbor's yard, which is totally fine. It's pretty, but we didn't need that and the Roguchi. I think that this looks a lot cleaner. I do think that this oak leaf will just fill in that space. This is where I'm gonna put my new tutor trellis. So I have 3 salvia. The biggest one is this one here. So it obviously didn't recover as well from being cut back. So it just kind of shows how perennials need to be refreshed. So this spot in front of my sun border, this salvia had started to kind of die off. So I'm just gonna remove that, and I wanted a little bit of height here. So I'm putting the tutor here, and I'm gonna have my Roguchi grow on that. I am going to stick this one part of the salvia that still looks alive into my mailbox garden and just see what happens. So here's that Roguchi Clematis that I've moved to the front garden, the front border. And the Roguchi gets pretty big, so I'm hoping that it will be okay here. My plan is actually to move these tall lilies because they're already getting too close to the magnolia. So yeah, then there should be some space between the tall things. So we'll just have the magnolia on the left and then the Roguchi Clematis here on the right. Still trying to decide what color I'm going to paint this tutor. Clematis do really well for us here in our clay soil. So I think, and I do want a perennial. So I think I am going to stick with the clematis, but if this one doesn't work, then I think it was just meant to be that I plant a smaller one. Definitely keep you updated on whether this lives. Originally, I had a couple of longer branches with green, but they all kind of broke in the transport. So we're just going to see how this goes. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and for those of you who have subscribed, thank you so much.